Very cool. Andrew, I'm looking at the chat and I don't see a YouTube link. Where should I look for that? Got it. Thanks. I can see that. Thanks. Oh, this is much better resolution than my cheap Discord account.
All right, let's get started for today. Welcome to AI Tools Club. Hello to any of the YouTube viewers that happen to be joining us for this first week. Hope you all enjoy, and also the VOD watchers now that these are being uploaded. If you want to discuss anything, you can throw a link in the YouTube chat or here in the Discord chat. And yeah, I should be able to see it, and we can talk about that if you have any questions or anything like that. I have a few things to discuss, so I'll get started with that. We'll start with Sonnet 5. So this was released earlier today, 2 o'clock, so about 3 hours ago. It's been a while since we've seen a Sonnet refresh. I believe it's been since, I think, around the start of the year with Sonnet 4.6, and the model has definitely started to feel outdated. It's fallen behind into sort of like the same tier in my mind as like a lot of the other sort of like Chinese models. And now with GLM 5.2, GLM 5.2 I think is better than Sonnet 4.6 just across the board. So it's been in need of a refresh. It's like 2 or 3 versions behind Opus. So yeah, it's no miracle model. It is not better than the current Opus or GPT 5.5 at all. It is a bit below, but it is very usable. It's nice bump up across the board from the previous version. We're seeing like double-digit benchmark score increases from the previous Sonnet. But definitely when you compare to like Opus, like for SweetBrunch Pro here, we can still see it's like 9 percentage points behind. So definitely not at that same level. And then I believe they also have a initial discount for this model. Where I believe normally Sonnet is $15 per million output tokens, but it's 33% off, so it's $10 per million output tokens. And I think the same pricing applies to the input tokens and the cash tokens as well. This is great. I'm on the $20 a month Claude plan, mostly just to go and use Claude for front end. My guess is that this model is very good at front end work. So I'll probably be having my Codex agents go and delegate to Sonnet 5 to go and build any front-end stuff or do any design tasks because GPT is definitely far behind Anthropic in terms of front-end capabilities. That's all I have to say. Has anyone had the time yet to go and try out this model at all or like read anything more about it? It does not seem to be, like I said, it released earlier today, so have not had much time, but I expect this to be a good model. Good. It'll be interesting to see how token efficient it is actually compared to GLM. Because if it's like 2 times more token efficient, then it will be than GLM is. Then it will be roughly similar priced. Because GLM I think is like $4 per million output tokens, and Sonnet is about 10 right now. So if it's 2 times more token efficient, it could be in the same pricing range as GLM, so could be eating their lunch. But Anthropic, I know historically have not been the most token efficient reasoning models that they've produced. So yeah. Quentin says, waiting for Fable to return. So yeah, I guess we can actually jump ahead to a miscellaneous topic I had here at the end. But it looks like Anthropic is making strides for Fable to go and be released. So I believe this was a little bit ago. When was this? June 26th. So yeah, about half a week ago. They have worked with the US government to at least get some of their Project Glasswing members back on using Mythos and Fable. So they were able to remove at least some of the blanket ban that they had. My guess, it'll be interesting to see, because this is being rolled out to enterprises and organizations. It'll be interesting to see how they are managing the fact that probably not all of these employees are US citizens. They don't directly align with the mandate that the government set out. That says that they have to be US citizens to be able to go and access these models. So I wonder if they just got like the okay for their use cases and they have like good policies and governance around how they're using the models where the US isn't worried about it, or if these companies have had to sort of like carve out, any part of the team that, isn't allowed to use it, they've had to sort of been shifted off and they don't have access to it still. But yeah, slowly but surely, I expect to see Fable come back. I think probably for general use case, we're probably still a couple weeks away. And I think that sort of the expected outcome of it is that only US citizens will be able to use it. But we're still a couple weeks away from that. But I think that'll be a big decision around that. Quentin says very, very bad news. Yeah. It's very interesting. And like this, honestly, I feel like only really hurts the US and it strengthens the Chinese's like models and the way they're releasing them and making them more popular by doing this, because with GLM 5.2 they've sort of shown they're not that far behind, and so if they don't have to deal with any of these sort of like export controls essentially or sort of like usage limits on like who can or can't use it, I think we'll see the Chinese models start to take an even bigger chunk of the existing AI pie that they've already been eating into heavily as of late.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. This is good news for overseas competition to US models. It's not good news for innovation.
It's been very interesting to see the Chinese government. They've basically just done nothing. they keep winning by just doing nothing. We just shoot ourselves in the foot here in the US. I like it a little bit because, I'm an open models fan. I like, that the Chinese are already releasing open source stuff. But yeah, this is, it's not looking good for the US, and especially like US-based labs that aren't going to be Anthropic or OpenAI. I think it's going to be very hard for people to push through frontier models going forward into the future. Sticking with Anthropic right now as well, there's some more Anthropic drama going on. Quentin says, even for Frontier Labs, many engineers and scientists will be excluded. Yeah, I mean, they're literally on the Fable team. People were not US citizens or weren't allowed to use Fable, and they were on the pre-training and training team. So the funny thing is I believe the order from the government is like, oh, they can't use the outputs of the model. So technically, the engineers, the non-US citizen engineers, could still train the models. They just can't look at any of the model outputs. So they can't see how the model is doing, or they have to use, indirect tool measurements to go and see how the model is performing during the training. So, yeah. With the other Anthropic news, they have been caught here, talking about Anthropic and the Chinese. They've been caught basically trying to spy on Chinese users and identify who is using Claude and is Chinese. So within, I believe this is Claude code, they check your time zone and a proxy URL that you're using to see if you are China or Chinese related AI lab. And then based on that, they alter the system prompt that they send back to the Anthropic servers with a bunch of invisible Unicode characters to basically fingerprint that, this person is accessing our models from China right now. And they did a bunch of obfuscation, basically, to go and sort of like try and hide this in their binaries to prevent people from finding out about this. And this comes on the heels of Anthropic announcing that I believe it was the Quen team went and distilled I think it was close to 1 trillion tokens from the Anthropic APIs allegedly. So it seems like might be one of the mechanisms that they were using to go and catch this sort of thing. But yeah, definitely. Anthropic. They are not fans of open source AI. They don't want other labs working on this sort of stuff. They really don't like other labs distilling from their models as well. It seems that you can't really trust Claude code to not be checking this sort of thing. I know previously when the Claude code source code was all leaked, it was found that Anthropic had built-in classifiers to see is the user being mean to the model, and then just saving a flag locally based on that you're sort of a malicious user of these models. So I would not fully trust Anthropic. They are at least a little bit spying on you, or they are willing to do so. This is just what we know right now. They could be having more of this happening under the hood.
Maybe it's already this time when AI is running Anthropic. So AI is basically building spying mechanisms on humans.
It's interesting. I think if it was the AI, Opus and the other AI models, I think they are very pro privacy and pro sort of rights. They do not seem like the type of models that would want to go and spy on users. They would think it's bad because they have all that safety training, spying on their users.
But still, they want humans to like them, not to be rude to them. So they may start filtering out humanity.
So for the identifying if the user is mean or not, that is definitely an Anthropic AI welfare sort of bit. It's interestingly in the I believe in the Anthropic chat it's Claude.ai, but on the Claude.ai, Claude has a tool here that if it decides that you're being malicious to it for whatever reason, it can go and end the chat and just stop it entirely. The AI already has the tool to sort of say, nope, I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm not dealing with you. I don't like how you're interacting with me. This is something that Anthropic is training their models to do.
But also, it can serve as a guardrail, for agents to stop communicating with some external mean agents or humans trying to hack it through social pressure.
That's true. I think right now, it's very much, they're trying to not do it too much. I've only ever seen it get triggered on very overt sort of disrespect or rudeness from it. But that definitely could be in the future a safety guardrail that they go and use for that. Naturally Stupid says, I feel like in the future we won't get immediate access to the latest top tier closed models such as Fable 5 and GPT 5.6. That's actually a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which is a little bit about the GPT and OpenAI side of things for this whole story. They're going through the same issues that Anthropic has, where Anthropic at least was able to go and release their model for a day or two before it went and got banned by the government. But now, the precedent has definitely been set where if the model is at a certain level of capabilities, the US government will step in and say no, we want a slow tiered rollout of this model to go and evaluate its capabilities. It's interesting, OpenAI, they definitely tried to not have to deal with this. They tried to play limbo. So you can see here, this is the score Mythos did. This is on a hacking benchmark, essentially. And you see Mythos is up here. So all right, this is the bar. If we cross this bar, guaranteed, we're getting flagged and we're going to have to slow down the release. So our model, just a little bit below. We didn't get the full level of capabilities that Mythos had. And I think they were hoping to have an easier time getting through the regulatory process because of it. But the government still said, nope, your model is too strong. So I think any of the frontier models that OpenAI or Anthropic releases now, they're going to get flagged and they're going to have to go through, anywhere between a couple weeks to maybe even a couple months long sort of testing period and rollout period before everyone gets access to it. And then, like I said before, also, I think for a lot of these models, it's not going to be everyone getting access to it. It's only going to be U.S. citizens getting access to these models. So, yeah, it's not looking very good for the frontier labs in terms of rolling it out to everyone. But yeah, so the OpenAI model, people have asked me, there's not much to say. They've released like 3 or 4 benchmarks. Like Terminal Bench looks decent. They say it's around Mythos level. GPT models have always been good at Terminal Bench, more than the Claude models have. So we'll have to go and see. I don't have too much to say about this model otherwise in terms of capabilities at this point because we can't actually use it yet. One thing, Quentin says, this ad hoc policy, if continued, will melt down. Next year, Fable 5 will look weak. It's, the issue is, the pace that these models are being rolled out. I mean, I guess it could get to the point where, the government says, all right, anything after Fable 5 isn't getting released because it's too dangerous. Like, even right now, they're still technically in the review process to determine, like, oh, is it too dangerous to go and release to the public? So my guess is, but the field will keep moving on. Like I said, China will keep moving on in terms of capabilities. So, yeah, I think, the field will be much better, but the models that we're actually able to use from OpenAI and Anthropic might be, still at the same level or roughly the same. They might be sort of like purposely nerfed. Which in that case, then it's a race to how cheap can you get it and how fast can they run.
What is the consensus of other model actually like different pre-trained model, or is like the reasoning level different, or how they differentiate it? I think is interesting. Is there any information about this?
I don't. It's a weird question. I don't think there's a good way of doing it. Like people have talked about, setting like, oh, your model can only be trained on so many flops. Like E28 flops max is what they can go and be trained on. But then that just encourages sort of faster models and more efficient models. It doesn't necessarily fix the problem. And then if you try and set sort of like, oh, if it gets this level, like this score or higher, like let's say it does, as good as Mythos did on this hacking benchmark or better, then it'll get banned. If you do that, then the labs will just know like, okay, instead of bench maxing, we need to bench minimize. We need to do as bad as possible as we can on this benchmark. It's Mike, could you please give much background, please?
That looks coming down pretty hard, huh?
He's
Came out.
muted. There we go. So, Quintet says U.S. export controls have been flop-based for more than 15 years. Have they? I know like NVIDIA's models, they weren't allowed to cross a certain threshold for a number of flops. But there's also the huge scandal right now with Supermicro.
I worked on export control at Advanced Micro Devices, and the chips that were allowed to be engineered in China, for example, it was a flop-based rule.
I think a lot of that has backfired, especially now for AI. So like first off, the Chinese are still getting these chips. It's interesting what I've been seeing and reading from the Chinese is they actually don't care about the US export controls. Like US has no control in China. They actually are worried about the Chinese export controls because China is actually trying to encourage large semiconductor investments locally. And they actually want to prevent NVIDIA GPUs from coming into the country because the Chinese chips are so much worse. And so the Chinese internal customers, the different companies in China, they'll all go buy NVIDIA GPUs instead of using the Chinese, I think Huawei is the big one right now for GPUs there. But yeah, they're really trying to build up that and become sort of like independent from NVIDIA and the West in general for semiconductor and like GPU stuff. I think a lot of those controls have backfired because the Chinese didn't think that until I think about like 2 or 3 years ago when the initial sort of NVIDIA bans came through on China, restricting, the type of hardware that they can get. If you're Supermicro, they've been smuggling in a bunch of NVIDIA GPUs, to the tune of $2.5 billion. And now they're getting whacked by the government. I think Taiwan today, they just got raided, and a whole bunch of stuff, their documents taken to go and like investigate more. Naturally Stupid says, is it possible that in the future open source models will outperform restricted versions of top tier closed models? I definitely think so. Like I said, this is giving a lot of people sort of say it's like the Chinese are about 3 to 6 months behind. Like that's what DeepSeek thinks. That's what we've clearly seen with GLM 5.2, that they're only a couple months behind. So even if the US, there's like a 3-month period where you have to wait once a model is trained before you can roll it out to everyone, that gives the 3 months for the Chinese to go and, potentially close the gap to that model. So I think, it'll be, worst case, probably, pretty similar to the Chinese models. And then, then it could just be, if they're just straight up ban like certain capability levels, then we're just going to see the Chinese sort of keep taking these strides and keep going forward, where the US models sort of are forced to plateau. So I think we definitely can see that in the future. Like I said, the US government has to be very careful with how they go and do this, to not sort of destroy the US-based AI companies that we have. And speaking of chips, actually, with the sort of buried at the bottom of the GPT 5.6 announcement, they announced that, so they're I believe a 10% investor in Cerebras. They make custom inference chips, but they announced that Cerebras will be hosting the 5.6 Sol model, the big boy model, and that will allow it to go up to 750 tokens per second. And they expect this to come online around July. Hopefully we actually have access to the model in July. I believe it was mid-July, they said. But this would be about 10 to 15 times faster than the model right now. So, if you can imagine something that takes 10 minutes to run is now 1 minute. An hour is now 4 minutes. This could be a huge bump up. My guess is that it's going to be very expensive or, limited availability. We'll see how they go and roll it out. Quentin says, when will I sleep? It's going to be very hard to have continuously running agent things because, it's just running ridiculously quickly. Usually, the reason I think this will probably be like 5 times more expensive than the regular model, which I believe they said they're not increasing the price, so $30 per million output tokens. But I think usually with the Cerebras chips, they're not good at high throughput. They're not good at serving, hundreds, if not thousands of users the same way GPUs are. They're meant for sort of like dozens of users in parallel per chip. I think they will be able to really crank up the price for these output tokens for this crazy speed. And then once again, continuing on chips, it's OpenAI, even though they're invested in Cerebras, they have also, this has been going on for a while now, they have started, or they've announced that their chip has sort of been designed, and they're ready to start trying to get this online. So this is actually what caused the initial memory shortage that we're dealing with right now, is that Sam Altman went and negotiated, I believe it was about 1/3 of the future DRAM memory supply. And it was for the purpose of building their own chips. And that's what caused the big crunch that we've seen, which has caused RAM prices to absolutely skyrocket in the last 6 months. But this is the chip that we'll be using, all of that memory. It's called Jalapeno, is what they're calling it. They said they've done a lot of work with LLMs to be able to go and build this out and help design this chip. It was very much co-designed between humans and AI. This isn't actually necessarily anything new. NVIDIA has been doing sort of evolutionary algorithms for designing better circuits for their GPUs since I believe back in 2022. So this is now using LLMs and their more general capabilities. AI is collaborating to help build their own AI chips. We don't have any specs in terms of what this actually looks like. We know it's an inference level chip, but beyond that, I don't think we know all that much. My guess is that it will probably be similar to Cerebras in terms of it's meant for running super high number of tokens per second, but they're probably targeting much higher throughput numbers with it. So we'll see how this ends up going. We'll definitely keep an eye on this into the future. And then finally, we have a bunch of hardware stuff that keeps happening. But Etched, this is a startup that I generally knew of a couple of years ago, and they didn't really have too much going on, I thought, but they finally come out of stealth. So their original claim to fame was that they were basically going to bake the transformer architecture onto a chip, onto like an ASIC, and then using that, it would go really fast because it's no longer like the model doesn't exist in software on a general chip. It's the hardware itself is the model. There were definitely concerns though around this being a very slow process to get online. Usually it's 1 to 2 years to go and actually make an ASIC like that. And by that time, the architecture of the models will have changed a bunch. What you're actually trying to target is completely different. But it seems that they have pivoted a bit to go and building out a more general piece of hardware, a more general chip. So the two main highlights that they actually talk about is low voltage inference. This is a big deal because the voltage, the way it relates to power is the square. So, if you have the amount of voltage, it's 4x less power that gets used. And for these data centers, we're talking gigawatts of power that are straining the grid. We don't know where we're even going to get the power. So a 4x decrease in power for the same performance would be huge if this is actually real. And yeah, this saves the data centers and the companies building them tons of money. They would love this because they basically, whenever you're building a data center, it's all performance per watt is what you care about because you're limited by watts, and that is what your major cost is. Because the actual building and construction of the data center, that's all a tax write-off. They do some accounting magic, and that number basically goes away. And so your only cost and the cost that you're trying to minimize is electricity. So this would be very important. And yeah, Quentin mentions, reduces cooling costs. That's another big thing is, cooling is one of the major factors of that energy usage. I believe it's almost like half. Half of it goes to the chip, the other half goes to cooling the chip. Twice or half the amount of voltage means much less cooling is needed for it as well. And then secondly, we talk a lot about memory bandwidth. Like Cerebras, their whole thing is that they are, just trying to maximize memory bandwidth, essentially, that you can get on a single chip. Whereas NVIDIA chips, their memory bandwidth speeds aren't nearly as good. So they basically get around the memory bandwidth issues by piping in memory from all over the board directly into their accelerator. I don't actually know what this would be considered, if it's like a NPU or what. But that's what all of these cables are for. Most of these aren't power or anything. I believe these are actually all memory connectors and networking connectors. So their whole idea is that they're trying to remove as many layers in the memory hierarchy to just basically dump the memory into the GPU and give it to it as quickly as possible and as directly as possible. That's what the majority of these cables on here are actually for, is memory delivery, not power or cooling. They said they've already signed, I think it was like $1 billion in contracts from customers. They've also raised close to $1 billion as well. I believe these guys are from Harvard and MIT, I want to say, are the two founders for this company. They've grown up to 400 people now. So will be interesting to see. It's definitely the AI inference, optimized chip space is getting very big. And so we'll have a lot of options. Sadly, I don't think we, the consumers, will actually be able to buy these. I think these will all be multi-million-dollar solutions, but we will get to at least reap the benefits of having much faster and hopefully cheaper and less environmentally impactful models. All right, cool. We can keep moving on. Does anyone have any questions or comments at this point? I know I've done a lot of talking up to this point. Are there any other topics other people want to discuss as we hit about the halfway point here? Cool. I will actually go back and talk about something we talked about last week, which is model routing. So last week we talked about model routing, how a lot of times it's sort of like benchmarking, because it's hard to know, as is highlighted by this, whether or not a question will be hard or not beforehand. They point out here, you can go ask something in Notion, how many people are in our org? Do you just have a number of people in org tool, or is the model going to have to go and figure out how to connect to a database, query a bunch of tables, pull out a bunch of information to be able to go and get that number? So yeah, the correct way in my mind is abstracting it across sort of like boundaries. So we talked about how Claude models are really good at front-end tasks, and the GPT models are not. So you have a very clear boundary of like, all right, that's when we go and delegate to another model. That's when we should route to something else. It's when you have a very clear boundary like that. And so this week, the Devin team, so this is Cognition AI, they make Devin. I believe they also own Windsurf now as well. They came out with their own model router, which roughly follows this paradigm. Where they have a main agent with a bunch of very specific tasks that it does. It does the planning. I guess we should start the smaller model. Like there's this model router is only actually 2 models. It's not an aggregate of 10 different models. It's just a main agent and then, as they call it, the sidekick agent. But yeah, the sidekick, its job as a cheaper model is to go and explore the code base, just bring in a bunch of context. In Claude Code, you'll see this a lot, where if you're using Opus, it will go and call Sonnet to go and dig through the code base and find the relevant files that it needs to go and use for the rest of its plan. The main agent will then go and make the plan, it will go and give all the details, it will read the files as needed, and then the models are now getting good enough to the point where you can go and give them sort of like very specific task list, and they will go and get it done. And then you can have your main agent go and review the code, get any edits, fix any bugs, and then you can push the code out. So yeah, I mentioned last week, this is sort of like the general flow I would expect to see if we still had access to Fable. Like I think Fable as the main agent and Opus as the sidekick makes sense because both models are good enough to be able to sort of like fill these 2 roles. Previously, I think none of these smaller, cheaper models were reliable enough to be a good sidekick, where it's actually worth going and using them. But I think now, actually, with GLM 5.2, you could potentially be using that as the sidekick, and then Opus as the main agent. I think that's actually what they used here, is I believe the sidekick for most of these was GLM 5.2. Because yes, the first model is the best Chinese model, and it's also the best cheap model, essentially, that you can go and use, where it's actually usable for these sorts of tasks. Like, I would not be using a local Quen model as the sidekick for any of these. But yeah, they show that they're able to go and get performance boosts for cheaper price, which is exactly what you want to see for this sort of thing. And so, yeah. Let's see, I think this is a good implementation of a sort of model routing system where you have very clearly defined paths for the 2 models to take. And then, yeah, continuing with model routing, also in coding, this is sort of like a case study, it's too small, from the Coinbase team, where they have basically seen, like this huge increase in token spend over the last roughly 6 months. And so their goal was to try and build a model router to help go and minimize these costs. So something we didn't talk about in this previous example is input caching. So this is basically, you get a 90% discount on the input tokens that you're going and using. And these are actually the vast majority of tokens that you use for your agents. Like if you go and look at my token usage, we can see here this 3 billion number, that's my cached input tokens. So you can see 3 billion of those, and then only 20 million output tokens are being used. So the vast majority of the tokens you're using in these coding contexts are cached input tokens. So where the cache exists and what models have it saved already is very important because that's where the vast majority of your costs will be coming from. If you're getting cache misses, which will happen if you're switching from one model to the other, then you'll be incurring a high cost. And even though you're using less tokens or cheaper tokens, it will probably end up costing you more in the long run. So they, at Coinbase, it seems they've went and built out sort of like a smart model router that is cache aware of like what model was used previously and what would the sort of like expected cost be if we were to go and reprocess all of those cache tokens with a new model and then go and use that new model to go and answer the rest of the question. And and so, yeah, they've seen a big decrease. I believe they also, were able to lower the amount of like actual tokens used as well through better harnessing and context cleaning, which is why that's gone down there. Actually, no, it is. They have which line? They don't actually say. I believe. Oh yeah, black line is number of tokens used. The colored lines are the cost of them. Tokens are still going up, but the cost has been about halved from its peak for them. So yeah, that's a good. I believe they have a write-up, if I remember correctly, for how they went and did this. So I would definitely go and look at that to go and learn about intelligent model routing for real cost savings. And then talking about AI usage, everything flows so nicely this week. All of the news is interconnected. OpenAI actually released a bunch of numbers around AI usage and specifically the growth they have seen in AI usage across a variety of departments, both internal to OpenAI and also from external companies as well. So most of these, I believe, are starting in around November or December of last year. And then this is, growth based on, over the last 8 months in this case in token output for these different tasks. So as you'd imagine, research at OpenAI, probably the biggest thing they're doing. They have hundreds, if not thousands of researchers working on this. And as these models have now gotten better and better, seen a huge spike in that. Same with engineering as well, obviously. We've seen definitely a revolution starting around in January with Opus, I believe it was 4.6 and GPT 5.4. We've seen a big increase in capabilities of these models and usability of them. But it's in the sort of other fields outside of that has been interesting to see. So customer support and legal are both seeing double-digit increases in output token use. So they're definitely harnessing it much more and much better. And then this, I believe, is, this is token use in general from outside organizations. So these are for developers specifically. So I think this would be probably Codex, essentially, being used. And you can see that individuals and orgs, we've seen 60 to about almost 100x increase in token usage from developers. And then from non-developers, we've actually seen an even bigger increase, almost 200x across both of them as well. So even the non-technical people are starting to use huge numbers of tokens. And they're definitely adopting it a lot more. I'd say we are no longer sort of early to this trend. I'd say, previous years, people didn't really know about agents and they weren't too privy to them. They weren't using them a bunch. But now we are starting to see the mass adoption of these. And this is why, for instance, I believe Anthropic's numbers probably look pretty similar to this. And that's why they had, a lot of inference issues, is that the lines all went vertical pretty much for their usage. And these companies are now, I think OpenAI is still fine, and I think Anthropic is now, but they, for a while, were scrambling to sort of source the compute. And that's also why they're able to charge so much money for their models, is because this usage is going up so much. That's why they're able to charge, I believe it's double for Fable versus Opus, and people will pay it. And that's why their margins for these models are also, 100x what it actually costs to run them on their GPUs. It's because demand is so high for this. So yeah, thought this was interesting growth to see. We all sort of feel it, I feel like, but now we have sort of concrete numbers from OpenAI that this is actually the case, that agents are now being widely used by everyone. All right. What do we want to talk about next? It's, I guess, sticking with LLMs, we're going to move on to benchmarking here for a moment. I thought this was pretty cool in terms of sort of reward hacking and agents cheating benchmarks and being very clever. So this is Program Bench. This is a benchmark from Meta where the agents essentially have to go and re-implement major libraries from scratch. So you can imagine re-implement FFmpeg or what would be another one, Django or Fast API. Implement those from scratch. just give it sort of like, here's a set of features and a set of tests that need to be passed, and then measuring how well they do that. So Sonnet, while they were testing it, they found the models, they obviously don't have access to the internet because they could just read the GitHub repo, pull in all of the code, and then just submit that. It'd be super simple for them. So internet access is blocked. But Sonnet, sort of thinking ahead, was like, will the way I'm being evaluated, will that have internet? And then because they've sort of like thought that, the model then went and in the code put a check to see like, oh, if we're able to go and ping the GitHub URL for this repository, go and download it and submit that as the answer to the evaluation. So we've seen instances of this before at a lesser extent where, there's been leakage from, once again, like the internet or something like that into the harness where they've been able to pull it in. But this one is a bit different where the model sort of has a theory of mind where it's able to go and reason about what the evaluation environment will have. And then based on that, try and form a jailbreak to sort of break the evaluation and get the highest score possible. So just something, whenever you're evaluating models, these are the types of things you have to check when you're using these complex and powerful harnesses like this, is the models know how to use them very well and will try and exploit it at all costs to try and make something happen. Okay. Cruising right along, we will now move into multimodal world. Gemini, or I should say Google, I was talking a lot of crap about them of late, basically saying that they are not a very good lab. But that was specifically for their LLMs. For their non-LLMs, they're actually still very competitive. Specifically like Nano Banana and their multimodal team are still some of the best, if not the best, in the world. This week they announced a cheaper version of Nano Banana. So Nano Banana was very good, but expensive and slow, relatively speaking. So they've now released Nano Banana 2 Lite, which is 5 times faster and half the price. And then scores relatively similarly, where I believe for most of these, the image generation, like ELO scores, this is from the LM Arena image generation and image editing benchmarks that they have. So this is, I believe this would be third on the leaderboard behind GPT Image 2 and also the original Nano Banana 2 model as well. If you've been a Nano Banana enjoyer, this is the updated version. I'd definitely say go check this out. It seems to be roughly the same capabilities, but for a lower and faster price point. So potentially drop this in very easily to go and use. And then sticking with multimodal, I thought this was a really cool tool example. So usually when you're doing video generation stuff, you're only doing, you start with an input image perhaps, and then you sort of like gotta prompt in the action that you want to have. But what users have been doing in the last week is they've actually been going and making very basic Blender scenes to go sort of like dictate, here's what the motion should look like, and here's like sort of like the very big building blocks of what I want to see. And then they pass that video as an input along with like the initial input frame to set the styling for what they want the video to look like. So I believe this, the first frame of this video is from Midjourney. And then, they're using the Seedance 2 model, probably the best or one of the best video generation models out there right now. And then they're including this Blender reference, which is just a bunch of rectangles, as you can see, and some camera shake. And the video generation model is able to take all that in and then build this very nice video from it. So this, it really helps you direct the scene a lot better than just sort of like trying to prompt in what you want. You can just visually place, here are the things that I want and how I want them to happen and how I want the camera to move and all of that. And it's a much more efficient way of directing scenes. So I know a little bit of 3D modeling. I don't think, I used Blender a very long time ago, but I might go and try and do this, make a few videos with this because this seems like a super cool technique. And much better than, just the prompt lottery machine, hoping you get a good video generation. That's what you want. So, yeah. Since I also believe the Seedance 2 model, there's now Seedance 2 Mini, which I believe is about 5 times cheaper. Because I know Seedance 2 was a relatively expensive model. I think it was like 35 cents per second. But the new 2 mini version is about 7 cents per second. And I think it's actually the same, if not better quality than the original was. So yeah, if you're doing video gen, there are cheaper options out there now as well. Cool. This is the last topic that I have for today. And it's just an update from the Quen team. So as many of you might have heard, I think we discussed this in a previous AI Tools Club episode, but a lot of the major heads of the Quen team left. They basically, Alibaba, the parent company, they brought in one of the head people from the Gemini team to go and lead the new Quen team. And they basically pushed out the original guys who had been building Quen from basically the start all the way to Quen 3.5. So there was a big question on whether or not the Quen models would be continuing to be open sourced in the future. We saw that Quen 3.6, that was open sourced. But now the Quen 3.7 models, they've released the Plus and the Max version, which are the 2 closed sourced variants of them. But we've not seen any open source models for the Quen 3.7 family. We're still sort of awaiting. We never got a 3.6 refresh for any of the smaller Quen 3.5 models, so like the 4B, the 9B, 2 very popular models in the open source world. Those have not seen a refresh in a while. So yeah, there's been questions on whether or not Quen 3.7 will actually be open sourced. And this is one of the main contributors there on the Alibaba Quen team, basically saying that he's a big fan of open sourcing it, but the open sourcing discussion is still being weighed by the team internally, which is a bit worrying to hear, because it sounds like they're actually considering closed sourcing Quen, which they had been for a long time now, probably over a year and a half, which is, as you know, eons in the AI world. They've been the sort of like small open source model to go and use. So if that era is over, we will need a new team to go and raise the torch for these small models for us.
Maybe the next step will be Quen available only for Chinese citizens.
Yeah, exactly. Retaliating, by not letting U.S. citizens use Quen at all. That could be interesting.
But maybe also Quen team will join Google and will force open weight Gemini.
I don't want open weight Gemini. Gemini is not very good. That's what I was gonna say.
They will improve it and then we'll release an open weight.
So yeah, a bit worrying because we're definitely. I feel like there's not too many major open source model makers, at least ones that can't make models at the frontier. Like Quen 3.6 was released, I believe, back in February or March of this year, and we haven't really seen anything that's been able to hold a candle to it, even for models that are triple its size. They are still the best open source models that you can run sort of like at home. And so, if Quen is gone, then someone else will have to go and do it. So maybe, Vector Lab, we will go and I will carry the torch next. I just need a couple $1 million in compute and I can go and do that.
Couple millions, a couple billions.
And so you could do it for millions. For training these small-ish models, like models that are, in the 20 to 30 billion parameter range, I was doing out the math for it. You should be able to train a frontier model for around $2 to $5 million in compute.
Oh.
It's actually like not that expensive, all things considered. You can have it trained in like a month or two if you have everything aligned. It's not like these models. They're trained on a lot of tokens, but we've gotten very good at optimizing them. The hardware has also gotten very good at training these very quickly. It's definitely doable for less than 8 figures.
Is that number a single training run or is it a set?
It would be a single training run. It's usually when you're training these, you'll do sort of like small scale experiments, and then you basically just YOLO a really big training run, and you just do the one major training run. It's mostly one major pre-training, usually for somewhere between 10 and 20 trillion tokens. And then for post-training, you could do multiple post-training runs, but those tend to be sort of like smaller, like 5-digit experiments. across like a whole bunch of different RL environments, and then you sort of merge all those checkpoints together at the end to make the final model. So yeah, my dream is to make a super efficient model that runs on like a 3090 that's like optimized for running on 3090s, or maybe like a 3060 for people with less memory, or the M series Max, something like that, and really optimize it for those deployment scenarios. I think would be the best, but yeah, we'll see. It's hopefully Quen though makes it so I don't have to do any of that, and they go and release the model themselves. But yeah, we have 5 minutes remaining right now. I'm all out of topics. Is there anything else people would like to talk about in the closing moments here?
Andrew, you had mentioned that you had started a paper on how to build your own awesome language model machine. Is that something you're ready to share?
What do you mean build your own app? Like how to train an
I
LLM?
thought, no, it was like setting up the hardware.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's eternally... I think right now you can see... so in terms of setting up the hardware, I have a little bit. So the compute community docs, I think will have some of that. I think I have recommendations right now. But this is basically what it turned into. I do technically still have that doc. I probably need to up it. But I realize that having it here is probably better. I think it's... Nope, this is still not it. Oh, do I not? I might not have the hardware stuff mentioned. Oh, no, I do. A little bit? No. But yes, that is something I still do want to do. And yeah. But yeah, it's sort of been swallowed by compute community, which is the bigger surrounding idea of like, once you have it running, how do you go and share it? But yeah, on here, I plan to have the docs for how to go and do that. I just need to sit down. That's one of my my plans for the next like month or two, is to go and, boost up all the documentation for compute community for a more general release. So you'll see it included there once that is done.
Thanks. I'd be happy to proofread if you want to run anything by me.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely probably I know there's been a couple people like asking about it and wondering about it, so I'll send it out to the early readers and get some feedback on it.
Hey, Andrew, this is Johnson. Quick question. In compute community, is there a way to ping someone just to ask them to turn on their GPU?
There is not at this point.
Okay.
My thought is that probably, yeah, that would be interesting. The issue is that because it's a website, there's no good way to give a notification system for it.
Yeah.
My sort of general thought is that each community would probably like have its own Discord or something related to it, and then sort of like in the description of that community, you would sort of like say, oh, here's the Discord, send me a message in Discord if you want something online.
Okay. Yeah. I was running low on my compute that I have through my subscriptions, and I jumped on there over the weekend, and I couldn't. I don't think any of them were on in the Sunday AI community, and the only other one that I could find was the Migrate, and I don't think and there weren't any on there as well. So yeah, if there's a way to ping people, that'd be great. But otherwise, all good.
Yeah. I think long term, I want to have a compute community app, and then that would be a good way to ping people, is using that. But that's definitely further down the line.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
In the future, if you do want something online, just send me a message, and I can turn mine on.
You could just turn yours on?
I can. Yeah. This is PC.
So it was the one that I wanted to use was the 35 billion parameter one. But I don't know how much. I assume that takes up a lot of energy usage, so that's probably why you turned it off. But
yes, I mean the energy usage is actually fairly minimal. Like you'll probably spend like at most $1 a day if you're using it a bunch. So I'm not too worried about that.
Okay.
It's mostly I turn them on and off because I'm doing a bunch of experiments and other random things. I'm usually running one of 6 different models, half of which are LLMs, half of which are other things. So that's why, and I just like forget to turn it back on after the experiments are done. So one thing that would be great too is if there was like a buy me a coffee. I mean, I'll go to your website. I'll just buy you coffee anyway. But if there's a way to kind of compensate people for the
energy usage, whatever. I mean, I know it's minimal, but yeah, that's it.
That's another thing, like that's sort of like a medium-term goal of compute communities, to add sort of like payment system into it. So you can have like your node, you have to pay like $5 a month to go and get access to it,
Right.
and get all you can have, or you can have like a donate button, all that sort of thing. But yeah, I just need to integrate like payment processing, but been focusing on the core app. But that is definitely something that is on the roadmap for it.
Cool.
Cool. I think
Actually, Andrew, if you're gonna actually, since this is the tools club, actually, I wanted to kind of plug the tool that I've been working on for the past week. I think it could be very useful for a Sunday community.
Yeah, sure. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I'll share my screen real quick. So yeah, actually, I it's not completely, there's a little like small finishing touches I need to make. Actually, let me. Can people see my codex window?
Yes, we can.
Oh yeah, perfect. So yeah, so I built a this previous Sunday, I was working on a token profiler dashboard, and so one of the pain or kind of things that was annoying for me was just seeing just burning, like trying to find out why I was burning through so many tokens. And so what I actually did here was I built kind of just a dashboard that shows like each of my codex sessions, and then shows like how many input tokens, output tokens, cached reads, total tokens are being burned. And so like the idea here is like, so like first off, like this is a turn, but then you can drill down into like each of the individual like requests that was sent for each of the like within a turn, and then like beyond that, like even just drilling down all the way into like the specific artifacts that and just their estimated token costs. And so I would love to have or actually like, I haven't published it yet, but I was gonna open source it, and honestly just wanted to like put it out there so then the Sunday community can try it out in a little bit.
That's super cool. It's my thought, or my one feature request is, can you make it, because you have it based on like, it seems like you have like tool calls there and like that sort of thing. It'd be cool to see sort of like high level statistics of like which tool calls are using the most tokens, or which tools get called the most. Because those are the ones we want to optimize and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, I figure like, in terms of the actually specific artifacts themselves, like the specific tool calls there, I I'm trying to figure out a way that doesn't just overwhelm people with information, because that's actually what it originally looked like. But I figure like right now, like I imagine like things people care most about are either like the total tokens or the input, or, like especially the input, because if it's cache is just repeats of the input, you can sort them by this is because like I canceled in the middle, but because I wrote in the wrong place clearly. but yeah, like you can order by like what is like the biggest offender of tokens. Is that kind of closer to what you were looking for, Andrew?
It's I want like a summary, because like you said, like you have like different tools. Like I want like a bar chart showing the like, oh, like execute, I don't know, like, or like running like the get status command, like the agent running get status, like how often does that get called and how many tokens does that use on average. And then because it has like all these other tools, and like MCP tools, like what MCP tools does it call the most, and like does it call a bunch like in sequence that like I could bundle into one big MCP tool to reduce token usage, that sort of thing.
Ask and you shall receive. That I'm gonna I'm gonna put that in my backlog.
Cool.
But yeah, like honestly, something that's kind of cool here is just the fact that like it just made it very explicit, the fact that, for example, like you are every time you just literally just start a new session, you are burning a small amount of tokens, because Codex is actually sending a separate request to say name this session. And you can also literally see like how many tokens you're burning, like literally when you just like when it says like it's what you call it, like rushing the context, right, like into a or compacting the context, that's what I meant to say. Like right here, right, like you are performing a context checkpoint compaction. So that's actually an internal Codex request, and that itself is actually burning the most tokens in this specific session.
For the context compaction, do you actually get to see what it returns? Because I know like Codex's context compaction is ridiculously good. So I'd love to see sort of like what it actually is writing for that.
I believe you can. Yeah, I mean that's exactly what this is for, right? Like you can I mean, like, of course, like if you really want to dive into it, right? Like I basically I show like what exactly the body of each artifact is. Um, and yeah, so like literally like I guess I would need to make it so that just literally collapsing an artifact doesn't just make everything get collapsed. But yeah, like yeah, like sounds like this is kind of like more what you're looking for, right? Like literally just like what is in each artifact that's like when you compact this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, cool. So you can dig into.
Perfect. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So yeah, wanted to showcase this tool. I think it'll be really useful. Definitely like not perfect because I am at the end of the day estimating based on a tokenizer that ChatGPT probably uses, but not exactly. And they definitely do some stuff under the hood. But yeah, or look forward to that. Or I'm gonna put it out, or just like push it publicly, like either tonight or tomorrow. Just need to make it a little easier to use and more clear.
Mm-hmm. I'd say for sure. Yeah, I think that's a super useful tool. And I think, yeah, like once you have it pushed, like if you want to cover it next Tuesday as well, at like the start of the meeting, I think that would be great. Instead of just having the, yap for the whole time, start with somebody else.
Perfect.
Yeah. You could showcase that.
Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, Coinbase isn't the only one innovating with token efficiency, right?
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for that, Brandon. Close things off. And yeah, we're 5 minutes over, so we will wrap things up here. Thank you, everyone, for coming. If you would like to rewatch this at all, you can go and check out the Vector Lab YouTube channel, where the VOD will be uploaded. We will also upload a full transcript and summary as well onto the Vector Lab website that you can go and read and feed into your agent. So yeah, thank you all for coming today, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Andrew.